The wind howled through the narrow streets of Brooklyn like a wounded animal, carrying with it sheets of snow that blurred the line between earth and sky. It was the kind of storm that made the city feel apocalyptic, the kind that emptied streets, shut down subways, and sent even the bravest New Yorkers running for shelter. The weather reports had been screaming about it for days. A nor'easter, they called it, one of the worst winter storms to hit the city in decades. Ethan Rivers stood behind the polished oak bar of Marino's Bistro, watching through the frosted window as the last few customers hurried out into the white chaos. The restaurant, usually bustling on a Friday night, had been steadily emptying since 6 o'clock. Now, at nearly 9:30, only 2 tables remained occupied, an elderly couple sharing tiramisu in comfortable silence, and a businessman in a gray suit nursing his 3rd espresso while frantically typing on his laptop. "Think we'll close early?" Ethan turned to see Marcus, the line cook, leaning through the kitchen doorway. His dark skin glistened with sweat from the heat of the stoves, and his white chef's coat bore the evidence of a long shift. Tomato sauce stains, olive oil spatters, and a dusting of flour across the chest. "Probably," Ethan replied, drying a wine glass with methodical precision. "Mr. Marino said if the last customers leave by 10, we're done. No point staying open when nobody can even get here." Marcus grinned. "Man, I've been dreaming about my couch since noon. You getting home okay? Your place is what, 20 blocks? 18, Ethan corrected, setting the glass down. "I'll manage. Done it in worse." That wasn't entirely true, but Ethan had learned a long time ago not to show weakness. At 23 years old, he'd been working at Marino's for 2 years, ever since he'd dropped out of community college to take care of his younger sister Emma. Their parents had died in a car accident when Ethan was 19 and Emma was 15. No extended family. No inheritance except debt and grief. Just 2 kids trying to survive in the most expensive city in America. The waiter job wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills, barely. Between his wages and tips, Ethan managed to keep their small apartment in Flatbush and put Emma through her freshman year at Brooklyn College. She wanted to be a teacher. Ethan wanted to make sure she got that chance, even if it meant sacrificing his own dreams. "You're a tough bastard, Rivers," Marcus said with genuine admiration. "All right, I'm going to start breaking down the kitchen. These last 2 better finish up soon." As if on cue, the elderly couple stood, the husband helping his wife into her thick wool coat. Ethan moved smoothly from behind the bar to their table, presenting the check with a warm smile. "Everything was wonderful, dear," the woman said, her voice trembling slightly with age. "Please tell the chef the ossobuco was perfection." "I will, Mrs. Chen," Ethan replied. He'd learned her name months ago. She and her husband came every Friday, always ordered the same thing, always left a generous tip. These small human connections were what made the job bearable. "Get home safe. The storm's getting worse." Mr. Chen handed him a credit card along with 2 20s. "The card's for the bill. The cash is for you. Buy yourself something warm to drink on the way home." Ethan's throat tightened. $40. That was groceries for 3 days. "Thank you, sir. Really, that's very kind." After processing their payment and helping them to the door, Ethan watched through the window as they disappeared into the swirling white. The businessman was already packing up, clearly eager to leave. By 9:50, the restaurant was empty. "All right, people," Mr. Marino's voice boomed from the kitchen. Antonio Marino was a first-generation Italian immigrant who'd opened the bistro 30 years ago with money saved from working 3 jobs. He was short, round, perpetually red-faced, and loved his restaurant like it was his child. "We're closing." Ethan locked the front. "Marcus, shut down the kitchen. Angela, count the register. Let's get out of here before we're sleeping on the floor." Angela, the hostess, was already pulling on her puffy jacket. "I called an Uber 15 minutes ago. Still says 25-minute wait. Might just walk to the subway." "Don't be stupid," Mr. Marino snapped, though his tone was affectionate. "Trains aren't running. You wait for that car. Ethan, you help Marcus with the trash before you go, yeah?" "Yes, sir." The next 30 minutes passed in the familiar rhythm of closing duties. Ethan wiped down tables, stacked chairs, mopped the dining room floor. Marcus bagged up kitchen waste and broke down cardboard boxes. Angela counted cash and credit card receipts, her fingers flying across the calculator. By 10:40, they were ready to leave. "Everyone got away home?" Mr. Marino asked, pulling on a heavy overcoat that had probably been fashionable in 1995. "Uber's outside," Angela said, peering at her phone. "I'm walking," Ethan said. "It's not that far." Mr. Marino frowned. "You sure? I could give you a ride. My car's got 4-wheel drive." I'm good, Mr. Marino, thanks though. Stubborn kid, the old man muttered, but there was fondness in his eyes. All right. Marcus, you take the trash out with Ethan. Don't leave him to do it alone. Actually, boss, my mom's picking me up out front, Marcus said apologetically. She's already here, that okay? Mr. Marino waved him off. Go. Ethan can handle it. Marcus clasped Ethan's shoulder. See you Monday, man. If we're not all buried under 10 feet of snow. Stay safe, Ethan replied. Within 5 minutes, the restaurant was empty except for Ethan. He grabbed the 3 heavy trash bags Marcus had left by the kitchen door and hoisted them over his shoulder. The service entrance was in the back alley, a narrow space between Marino's and the dry cleaner next door, barely wide enough for the dumpster and a delivery truck. Ethan unlocked the back door and immediately regretted it. The wind hit him like a physical force, nearly knocking him backward. Snow swirled in dizzying patterns, stinging his face like tiny needles. The temperature had dropped at least 10 degrees in the last hour. Ethan's breath came out in thick white clouds as he struggled toward the dumpster, his sneakers slipping on the already accumulated snow. Stupid storm, he muttered, lifting the dumpster lid and heaving the bags inside. Stupid job, stupid city. He was halfway back to the door when he saw it. At first he thought it was just a pile of snow against the brick wall, an odd drift created by the wind's erratic patterns. But something about the shape was wrong. Too organic, too deliberate. Ethan stopped, squinting through the blizzard. Then he saw the hand. Pale fingers partially buried in snow, extending from beneath what he now recognized as a dark coat. Holy shit, Ethan breathed. He ran forward, nearly falling twice on the slick ground. As he got closer, the shape resolved into a person. A young woman collapsed on her side, her dark hair plastered to her face with melting snow and something darker. Blood. Hey! Ethan dropped to his knees beside her, his hands hovering uncertainly. Hey, can you hear me? No response. Her skin was deathly pale, lips tinged blue. She wore expensive clothes, a black wool coat, designer jeans, leather boots, but they were soaked through, offering no protection against the killing cold. Ethan's mind raced. How long had she been out here? Minutes? Hours? The restaurant's back alley wasn't visible from the street. If he hadn't taken out the trash, he pressed 2 fingers against her neck, feeling for a pulse. There, faint, irregular but present. Okay, you're alive, he said, more to himself than to her. We're getting you inside. Come on. Ethan slipped his arms beneath her, one under her knees, one supporting her back, and lifted. She was lighter than he expected, almost fragile. Her head lolled against his chest as he struggled to his feet, fighting for balance on the treacherous ground. The journey back to the door felt like miles. The wind seemed determined to knock him down, and every step was a calculated risk. But Ethan had spent his whole life being stubborn, and he wasn't about to let this girl die in an alley when he could do something about it. He kicked the door open and stumbled inside, the warmth of the restaurant hitting him like a wave. Ethan carried her to the nearest booth and laid her down as gently as possible across the vinyl seat. Come on, stay with me, he muttered, pulling out his phone with shaking hands. His fingers were numb, making it difficult to unlock the screen. Damn it, come on. He dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? I found someone. A woman collapsed in the snow. She's unconscious, barely breathing. There's blood. I think she's injured. What's your location, sir? Marino's Bistro, 847 Fifth Avenue, Brooklyn. We're inside now. Please hurry. Paramedics are on their way. Stay on the line. Is she breathing? Ethan leaned close, watching her chest. Yes, barely. Her pulse is weak. Can you see where the blood is coming from? Ethan gently moved her coat aside, and his stomach dropped. Her shirt, once white, now crimson, clung to her left shoulder. The wound was visible even through the fabric. Her shoulder, he said. It looks like, I don't know, a cut, a gash. It's bad. Don't try to remove her clothing. Apply pressure to stop the bleeding. Use something clean if possible. Ethan grabbed a stack of cloth napkins from the nearest table and pressed them against the wound. The woman's eyelids fluttered. Hey, Ethan said softly. Hey, you're safe. Help is coming. Just hold on. Her eyes opened, just barely, just for a moment. They were striking, even in her weakened state. Gray-green, like the ocean before a storm. Intelligent eyes. Scared eyes. Her lips moved, forming words too quiet to hear. What? Ethan leaned closer. What did you say? They'll come looking. Her voice was barely a whisper, rough with pain and cold. Each word seemed to cost her tremendous effort. Don't tell them which way I went. Who's looking for you? But her eyes had already closed again, her brief moment of consciousness fading. Ma'am, stay with me. Ethan's heart pounded. The ambulance is almost here, just hold on. He could hear the sirens now, cutting through the storm's howl. Red and blue lights flashed through the front windows, casting strange shadows across the dining room. They're here, the 911 operator said. Keep applying pressure. You did great, sir. The next few minutes were a blur. Paramedics burst through the door, a man and a woman both moving with practiced efficiency. They assessed the situation in seconds, firing questions at Ethan while they worked. How long was she outside? I don't know. I found her maybe 5 minutes ago. Did she say anything? Just something about people looking for her. She was confused. Any idea what caused the shoulder wound? No. I just found her like this. They loaded her onto a stretcher, an oxygen mask already covering her face. The female paramedic, her name tag read J. Martinez, paused to look at Ethan. You probably saved her life, she said. Another hour out there and she would have been dead. Hypothermia's no joke. Is she going to be okay? We'll do everything we can. Brooklyn Methodist is closest. You're welcome to follow if you want. Ethan hesitated. He didn't know this girl, didn't owe her anything beyond what he'd already done. He had to walk home in a blizzard, had work tomorrow, had a million reasons not to get more involved. I have to lock up here, he said finally. But tell her, if she wakes up, tell her I hope she's okay. Martinez nodded and hurried out after her partner. Ethan stood alone in the restaurant, the sudden silence almost oppressive after the chaos. His hands were stained with blood, her blood. His clothes were soaked through, melted snow forming puddles on the floor. What the hell just happened? He whispered to the empty room. He moved mechanically, locking the back door, turning off lights, setting the alarm. His mind kept replaying the girl's words. They'll come looking. Looking for what? For her? Who were they? Maybe she'd been mugged. That would explain the wound, the fear in her eyes. But her clothes were expensive and she still wore diamond studs in her ears. Muggers didn't leave diamonds. Ethan shook his head. Not his problem. He'd done what any decent person would do. Now he needed to get home, take a hot shower, and forget this bizarre night ever happened. He stepped out into the storm, locking the front door behind him. The wind had somehow gotten worse, the snow now falling so thick he could barely see 5 feet ahead. The streetlights were dim halos in the white darkness. Ethan pulled his thin jacket tighter, pointless against this cold, and started walking. The streets were almost entirely empty. A few cars crawled past, their headlights barely penetrating the snow. An NYPD cruiser sat at an intersection, lights flashing, blocking off a street where a traffic light had blown down. Ethan waved to the cops as he passed. They waved back, probably thinking he was insane for being out on foot. Maybe he was. His apartment was 18 blocks northeast. In good weather, it was a 20-minute walk. Tonight, it would probably take 40, maybe longer. Ethan's thoughts drifted as he walked, the cold slowly numbing his face and hands. He thought about Emma, probably asleep by now in their apartment, warm and safe. She'd been doing well this semester. Dean's List. Her professors loved her. It made everything worthwhile, knowing she was building a future. He thought about the Chen's $40 tip, already planning how to stretch it. Rice and beans could go a long way if you were creative. He thought about the girl, those eyes, the fear in them, the warning she'd tried to give him. Don't tell them which way I went. Who was she running from? Ethan was so lost in thought that he almost didn't notice the vehicles. They came from behind him. 5 black SUVs with tinted windows, moving slowly through the storm. Their headlights cut through the snow like searchlights. They weren't regular cars or taxis. These were expensive, heavy-duty vehicles, the kind that cost 6 figures and could drive through a war zone. Ethan stepped aside to let them pass, pressing himself against a building's brick wall. But they didn't pass. The first SUV rolled to a stop directly beside him. Then the second, the third, fourth, and fifth spread out, forming a loose perimeter around the intersection. Ethan's heart began to pound. The back door of the lead SUV opened, and a man stepped out. He was tall, maybe 45, with silver-gray hair and a face that looked like it had been carved from granite. He wore a black wool overcoat that probably cost more than Ethan made in 6 months. Despite the storm, he moved with calm, unhurried precision. Behind him, more men emerged from the other vehicles. 8, 9, 10. Ethan stopped counting. They all had the same look. Expensive clothes, hard eyes, The kind of physical presence that suggested violence wasn't theoretical to them. The silver-haired man's eyes locked onto Ethan. "You work at Marino's Bistro," he said. It wasn't a question. Ethan's mouth went dry. Yes. How did you... Were you working tonight?" Every instinct screamed at Ethan to run, but there was nowhere to go. These men had appeared out of nowhere in the middle of a blizzard, looking for something, looking for someone. "They'll come looking." "I asked you a question," the man said, his voice still calm but carrying an edge now. "Were you working tonight?" "Yes," Ethan managed. "Did you see anyone unusual? A young woman, dark hair, possibly injured?" Ethan's mind raced. The girl had warned him. She'd known people would come, she'd been terrified, but she was safe now in a hospital getting help. These men couldn't hurt her there, could they? Ethan hesitated. The silver-haired man took a step closer. Even in the storm, Ethan could smell his cologne. Expensive, subtle. His eyes were pale gray, almost colorless. They studied Ethan with unsettling intensity. "Let me be very clear," the man said quietly. "The woman we're looking for is in serious danger. We need to find her. If you know anything at all, you need to tell me right now." Was he telling the truth? Were they trying to protect her? Or were they the ones she was running from? Ethan thought about those scared gray-green eyes, the desperation in her voice. "Don't tell them." He made his decision. "I'm sorry," Ethan said, forcing his voice steady. "I didn't see anyone like that. We closed early because of the storm. Just regular customers all night." The man stared at him for a long moment. The wind howled between them, snow accumulating on their shoulders. "You're sure?" "I'm sure." Another pause. Then the man reached into his coat. Ethan tensed, expecting a weapon, and pulled out a business card. He held it out. "If you remember anything, call this number, day or night. It's extremely important." Ethan took the card with numb fingers. It was heavy stock, embossed with a single phone number. No name, no company, just 10 digits. "I will," Ethan lied. The man studied him for another heartbeat, then nodded once. He turned and walked back to the lead SUV, his men following like shadows. Within 30 seconds, all 5 vehicles were moving again, disappearing into the storm as suddenly as they'd appeared. Ethan stood alone on the empty street, snow accumulating around his feet. The business card clutched in his frozen hand. "What the hell," he whispered, "did I just get myself into?" He looked down at the card, then at the direction the SUVs had gone. They'd been heading toward Brooklyn Methodist Hospital. Toward her. Ethan's stomach twisted. Had he just sent them straight to her by calling the ambulance? The hospital would have records. They'd find her easily. Unless that's not where they were going. Unless they already knew. "Not your problem," Ethan told himself firmly. "You did the right thing. You saved her life, that's enough." He shoved the card in his pocket and started walking again, faster now, desperate to get home. His clothes were soaked through, and he couldn't feel his hands anymore. The cold was becoming dangerous. But with every step, the girl's face haunted him. Those eyes, that fear. "Don't tell them which way I went." And he'd kept that promise, at least. He hadn't told them about the hospital. Maybe that would be enough. Maybe she'd wake up, give the police her statement, and whatever nightmare she'd been living would end. Maybe Ethan Rivers, 23-year-old waiter, could go back to his ordinary life and forget this night ever happened. But deep down, as he finally reached his apartment building and climbed the stairs to his third-floor walk-up, as he quietly let himself in and saw Emma's bedroom door closed and heard her soft breathing, as he stripped off his wet clothes and stood in a scalding shower trying to feel his fingers again, deep down Ethan knew that nothing was going to be ordinary anymore. He just didn't know how right he was. Ethan didn't sleep. He lay in his narrow bed staring at the water-stained ceiling of his apartment while the storm raged outside. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her face, pale, bloodied, those terrified gray-green eyes burning into his memory. He heard her whispered warning on an endless loop. They'll come looking. And they had come, just hours after he'd found her. Men in black SUVs with cold eyes and colder questions. Who were they? What did they want with her? And why had every instinct in his body screamed that he'd made the right choice by lying to them? Around 4 in the morning, Ethan gave up on sleep. He made coffee in the tiny kitchen, watching through the window as the storm finally began to die down. The snow had stopped falling, leaving Brooklyn buried under nearly 2 feet of pristine white. In a few hours, the city would roar back to life. Plows clearing streets, subway trains running again, millions of people returning to their routines. But Ethan had a feeling his routine was about to change permanently. You're up early." He turned to find Emma shuffling into the kitchen, wrapped in her worn bathrobe, her dark hair pulled into a messy ponytail. At 19, she looked younger, especially right now, with sleep still in her eyes and her face bare of makeup. "Couldn't sleep," Ethan admitted. "Storm was loud." Emma snorted, pouring herself coffee. "The storm didn't keep you up. You're doing that thing where you worry silently and think I won't notice." She studied him over the rim of her mug. "What happened?" Ethan hesitated. Emma was smart. Too smart. She could read him like a book. But how could he explain last night without sounding insane? "Just had a weird shift," he said finally. "We closed early because of the weather. Nothing major." "Uh-huh." Emma didn't believe him for a second, but she knew better than to push when Ethan was in this mood. "Well, I've got Professor Morrison's exam at 10. If the trains are running, I should head out soon." "Be careful," Ethan said automatically. "Streets are going to be a mess." "I'm 19, not 9, Emma replied, but she smiled as she said it. "I'll text you when I get there. You working today?" "Yeah, lunch shift, mister. Marino will want all hands on deck. Saturday after a storm means everyone who couldn't get out yesterday will be hungry today." Emma kissed his cheek on her way back to her room. "Don't stress so much, big brother. Whatever it is, it'll work out." If only, Ethan thought. By 10:30, Ethan was dressed in his work uniform, black pants, white button-down shirt, black tie, and walking toward the subway. The city had indeed roared back to life. Plows had cleared the main streets, leaving mountains of dirty snow on the corners. People hurried along sidewalks, their breath fogging in the frigid air. The sky was bright blue, the sun reflecting off the snow with blinding intensity. Everything looked normal. Ethan almost convinced himself that last night had been some kind of fever dream. Then he turned onto Fifth Avenue and saw the SUVs. 5 of them, the exact same black vehicles from last night, parked in a semicircle around Marino's bistro. They sat there like patient predators, their tinted windows revealing nothing. A few curious pedestrians slowed to look, but most New Yorkers knew better than to stare at obvious trouble. Ethan's feet stopped moving. Every nerve in his body screamed at him to turn around, to run, to call in sick and hide in his apartment until this nightmare passed. But he couldn't. Mr. Marino needed him. The restaurant needed him. And more than that, running would only make him look guilty of something. He forced himself to keep walking. As he approached, the door of the lead SUV opened. The silver-haired man from last night stepped out, and this time Ethan could see him clearly in the daylight. He was probably mid-40s with a lean, athletic build barely concealed by his expensive charcoal suit. His face was all sharp angles, high cheekbones, strong jaw, a nose that had been broken at least once. But it was his eyes that held Ethan's attention, pale gray, almost translucent, with an intelligence that missed nothing. "Mr. Rivers," the man said calmly, as if they'd planned this meeting. "Thank you for coming." Ethan's throat went dry. "How do you know my name?" "I know many things." The man gestured toward the restaurant. "Shall we talk inside? I promise you're not in any danger. Quite the opposite, in fact. I need to get to work. Mr. Marino has been informed that you'll be slightly delayed. He's understanding of the situation." That sent a chill down Ethan's spine. These people had already contacted his boss. How long had they been here? "Who the hell are you?" Ethan demanded, his fear finally translating into anger. "What do you want from me?" The man smiled slightly, the first real expression Ethan had seen from him. "My name is Vincent DeLuca. I'm an associate of the young woman you saved last night. She's alive because of you, Mr. Rivers. And for that we're extremely grateful." "So she's okay? The girl from the alley?" "She's recovering, and she'd very much like to thank you personally. But first, you and I need to have a conversation about what happened and, more importantly, what happens next." Vincent's expression grew serious. "I understand this is confusing and frightening. I understand you have questions. Please, give me 15 minutes. If you still want to walk away after that, you're free to go. You have my word." Ethan looked at the SUVs, at the restaurant, at Vincent's unnervingly calm face. He thought about the girl's terrified eyes, about the warning she'd tried to give him. 15 minutes, he said finally. Vincent nodded and gestured to one of his men, who produced a key and unlocked the restaurant's front door. Ethan's stomach dropped. They had keys to Marino's. How? Inside, the restaurant was empty but warm. Someone had turned on the heat. Vincent led Ethan to a booth in the back corner, the same booth where Ethan had laid the girl down last night. The blood-stained napkins were gone, the vinyl seat cleaned, like it had never happened. Vincent sat across from him, folding his hands on the table. Two of his men positioned themselves by the doors, not threatening but clearly standing guard. Where do I start? Vincent mused, more to himself than to Ethan. I suppose the beginning is as good as any. Mr. Rivers, what do you know about organized crime in New York City? Ethan blinked. What? The mafia? Crime families? Cosa Nostra? What do you know about them? I've seen the movies, I guess. The Godfather. Goodfellas. But that's all old history, right? That stuff doesn't really exist anymore. Vincent's smile was thin and humorless. That's what we want people to believe. The truth is we've simply evolved. We're more sophisticated now, more integrated into legitimate business. But make no mistake, we're still here, still powerful, and still very, very dangerous. Ethan's heart hammered in his chest. Why are you telling me this? Because the woman you saved last night is named Sofia Castellano, and she is the head of one of the most powerful crime families on the East Coast. The words hung in the air like smoke. Ethan laughed, a short, sharp bark of disbelief. You're insane. She was my age, maybe younger. There's no way. She's 24, Vincent interrupted, and she's been leading the Castellano family for 2 years, ever since her father was murdered. The laughter died in Ethan's throat. Vincent's face was completely serious. You're telling me, Ethan said slowly, that the girl I found bleeding in an alley is a mafia boss? The youngest in modern history, and quite possibly the most brilliant. Vincent leaned back, his eyes never leaving Ethan's face. Sofia's father, Carmine Castellano, built an empire over 4 decades. Legitimate businesses, construction, waste management, shipping, backed by less legitimate operations. When he was killed, everyone expected the family to fracture. There were 3 underbosses, each with their own crew, their own ambitions. The Castellano empire should have collapsed into civil war, but it didn't, Ethan said quietly. No, because Sofia stepped up. She was 22 years old, fresh out of Columbia Business School, and she walked into a room full of hardened criminals and convinced them to follow her, not through intimidation, not through violence, through pure intelligence and force of will. Vincent's expression held something that might have been respect. She restructured the entire organization, cut ties with the drug trade, too dangerous, too much heat from the feds, focused on white-collar crime, cyber operations, money laundering through legitimate businesses. In 2 years, she's doubled the family's profit and halved their legal exposure. Ethan's mind reeled. This couldn't be real. Things like this didn't happen in real life. Why are you telling me all this? He asked again. Because you're involved now, whether you want to be or not, and you need to understand what you've stepped into. I didn't step into anything. I found someone hurt and I helped them, that's it, that's all. That would be true, Vincent said calmly, except for one problem. The men who hurt Sofia, the ones who left her to die in that alley, they're looking for her, and they will find out that you're the one who saved her. Ice flooded Ethan's veins. The men from last night, in the SUVs. No, Vincent's expression darkened. Those were my men. We were searching for her. The men who attacked Sofia belong to the Russo family, our rivals, and they're far more dangerous than we are. Ethan stood abruptly, the booth creaking. No way. I'm not getting involved in some mob war. I have a sister to take care of. I have a life. You can't just... Sit down, Mr. Rivers. There was steel in Vincent's voice now, the kind of authority that expected to be obeyed. Ethan found himself sitting without consciously deciding to. I understand your fear, Vincent continued, his tone softening slightly. I understand this isn't what you signed up for when you carried Sofia inside. But the reality is simple. The Russos will investigate everyone who was near that alley last night. They have resources, connections. It's only a matter of time before they identify you. Then I'll go to the police, Ethan said desperately. I'll tell them everything. The police can't protect you from the Russos. And frankly, getting law enforcement involved would only make things worse for everyone. Vincent leaned forward. Listen to me very carefully. I'm not here to threaten you. I'm here to offer you protection. Sofia wants to thank you personally. She wants to make sure you're safe, but she needs to know she can trust you first. Trust me with what? With the truth about what happened. With your silence about what you've learned today. And most importantly, with her life. Vincent's gray eyes bored into Ethan's. When my men questioned you last night, you lied. You told us you hadn't seen Sofia. Why? Ethan swallowed hard. She was scared. She warned me that people would come looking. I didn't know who you were. I didn't know if you were trying to help her or hurt her. And yet you protected her. A complete stranger. Vincent nodded slowly. That's why Sophia wants to meet you. That's why I'm sitting here instead of having my men drag you to her. You showed integrity in a moment when most people would have taken the easy path. What happens if I say no? Ethan asked. What if I just walk away from all this? Vincent was quiet for a long moment. Honestly, I don't know. The Russos might find you. They might not. You might live the rest of your life in peace, or you might end up in an alley just like Sophia almost did. He paused. But I can promise you this. If you walk away now, you'll have no protection, no resources, no one watching your back. You'll be alone. I'm always alone, Ethan said bitterly. That doesn't have to be true anymore. Ethan looked at him sharply. What's that supposed to mean? It means that Sofia Castellano doesn't forget the people who help her. It means that if you agree to meet with her to hear what she has to say, you might find that your life, and your sister's life, becomes significantly easier, better opportunities, better security. A way out of this constant struggle you're trapped in. You don't know anything about my life. I know you work 60 hours a week to keep a roof over your sister's head. I know you dropped out of college to support her after your parents died. I know you're 3 months behind on rent and you've been skipping meals so Emma doesn't have to. Vincent's voice was gentle but firm. I know you're drowning, Mr. Rivers, and I'm offering you a lifeline. Ethan felt exposed, vulnerable in a way that made him angry. You had someone investigate me. Of course I did. That's how we stay alive in this business. We know everything about everyone who comes near us. Vincent pulled out his phone and tapped the screen a few times, then turned it to show Ethan. This is your sister, Emma, freshman at Brooklyn College, education major. Dean's List last semester. She's walking to the subway right now, about to catch the B train to campus. The photo showed Emma from across the street, bundled in her winter coat, completely unaware she was being photographed. Rage exploded in Ethan's chest. He lunged across the table, grabbing Vincent by his expensive suit. Don't you dare. He didn't get any further. In an instant, both guards were on him, yanking him back with professional efficiency. One twisted his arm behind his back, not enough to hurt, but enough to immobilize him completely. Vincent remained perfectly calm, straightening his tie. Let him go. The guards released Ethan, who stumbled backward, breathing hard. I'm not threatening your sister, Vincent said evenly. I'm making a point. We have resources. We have reach. And right now, the only thing standing between your family and people who would use them to get to Sophia is us. He stood, buttoning his suit jacket. I'm going to leave now. I'm going to give you an hour to think about what I've said. If you want to meet Sophia to hear what she has to offer, be at this address at 2 o'clock. He placed a card on the table, different from the one from last night. This one had an address in Manhattan, written in elegant script. If you don't show up, we'll disappear from your life. You'll never see us again, but you'll also be on your own. The choice is yours, Mr. Rivers. Vincent walked toward the door, his men following. At the threshold, he paused and looked back. For what it's worth, I hope you come. Sophia needs people she can trust, and from what I've seen, you're exactly the kind of person she needs in her corner. Then they were gone, the door closing softly behind them. Through the window, Ethan watched the SUVs pull away, disappearing into traffic. He sank into the booth, his hands shaking. What the hell had he gotten himself into? The next hour passed in a haze. Ethan went through the motions of his shift, setting up tables, folding napkins, memorizing specials, but his mind was 1,000 miles away. Mr. Marino noticed immediately. You okay, kid? You look like you've seen a ghost. I'm fine, Ethan lied. Just didn't sleep well. Those men this morning, Marino said carefully, wiping down the bar. They said they were friends of yours, that you'd had an emergency. They weren't friends, just people I know. It's complicated. Marino studied him for a long moment. The old man wasn't stupid. He'd lived in Brooklyn for 60 years, ran a restaurant in a neighborhood that had seen its share of organized crime. He knew when something didn't smell right. You in trouble, Ethan? I don't know, Ethan admitted. Maybe. I'm figuring it out. You need help, you tell me. Capiche? I've got connections. People who owe me favors. Ethan managed a weak smile. Thanks, Mr. Marino. I appreciate it. But what could Marino do against people like Vincent DeLuca? Against a family powerful enough to have keys to the restaurant, to investigate Ethan's entire life in less than 12 hours, to follow Emma without her knowing. At 1:30, Ethan made his decision. Mr. Marino, I need to take the rest of the day off. The old man frowned. You feeling sick? Something like that. I'm sorry. I know we're busy. Go. Marino waved him away. Marcus can cover your tables. You take care of whatever this is, but Ethan, be careful. Whatever you're mixed up in, be smart about it. I will. Ethan changed out of his uniform in the bathroom, pulled on his jacket, and stepped out into the cold afternoon. The address Vincent had given him was on the Upper East Side, a 40-minute subway ride from Brooklyn. Expensive neighborhood. The kind of place where Ethan felt out of place just walking down the sidewalk. The train was crowded with Saturday shoppers and tourists. Ethan stood near the doors watching the stations blur past. With each stop, his anxiety grew. He could still turn back, could get off at the next station and go home. Vincent had said he'd be on his own, but maybe that was okay. Maybe the Russos wouldn't find him. Maybe this would all just blow over. But then he thought about Emma, completely unaware that someone had photographed her this morning. Thought about how easy it had been for Vincent's people to find everything about his life. If they could do it, so could the Russos. And he thought about the girl, Sophia, lying in that alley, bleeding and terrified, trusting him with her warning, even though she'd never seen him before. The train pulled into Lexington Avenue. Ethan got off. The address led him to a brownstone on a quiet, tree-lined street. It was the kind of building that probably cost $8 million, 5 stories, pristine brick, wrought iron railings, a far cry from Ethan's cramped apartment in Flatbush. He climbed the steps and rang the bell. The door opened immediately. A different guard this time. Younger, maybe 30, with dark hair and watchful eyes. Mr. Rivers? That's me. ID, please. Ethan showed his driver's license. The guard examined it, then nodded and stepped aside. Second floor. Mr. DeLuca is waiting. The interior was even more impressive than the exterior. Hardwood floors, crown molding, artwork that probably cost more than Ethan would make in his lifetime. A sweeping staircase led to the upper floors. Vincent appeared at the top of the stairs, looking somehow unsurprised that Ethan had come. Right on time, he said. Thank you for coming, Mr. Rivers. I promise you won't regret it. I already regret it, Ethan muttered. Vincent's lips twitched, almost a smile. Fair enough. Come, Sophia's been looking forward to meeting you properly. He led Ethan down a hallway lined with family photos. Ethan caught glimpses as they passed. A dark-haired man who must have been Carmine Castellano, stern-faced in formal suits. A beautiful woman with kind eyes, probably Sophia's mother. And Sophia herself, younger in these photos, smiling at birthday parties and graduations. Normal. They looked so normal. Vincent stopped at a closed door and knocked softly. It's Vincent. I have Mr. Rivers with me. Come in. The voice was female, strong despite a slight rasp from injury. Vincent opened the door and Ethan's breath caught. The room was a study. Bookshelves lining the walls, a massive desk by the window, comfortable leather chairs. And sitting in one of those chairs, wrapped in a blanket despite the room's warmth, was her. Sophia Castellano looked different in the daylight without blood and snow obscuring her features. Her dark hair was pulled back, revealing a face that was striking rather than classically beautiful. Strong cheekbones, full lips, those impossible gray-green eyes that had haunted Ethan's dreams. Her left shoulder was bandaged, the outline visible beneath her oversized sweater. She was pale, clearly still recovering, but there was an intensity to her that filled the room. When she saw Ethan, her expression shifted. Relief, gratitude, something else he couldn't quite identify. You came, she said softly. I wasn't sure you would. Ethan found his voice. I wasn't sure either. Sophia smiled. A real smile, warm and genuine. Vincent told me what he said to you. I want you to know that I don't make a habit of investigating people who help me. But given the circumstances, she gestured to a chair opposite hers. Please, sit. We have a lot to talk about. Ethan sat, acutely aware of Vincent standing by the door like a sentinel. First, Sophia said, I need to thank you, properly. You saved my life, Ethan. Can I call you Ethan? Sure. You saved my life, Ethan. The doctors said another hour in that cold and I wouldn't have made it. You risked yourself, your safety, for a complete stranger. That's... She paused, seeming to search for words. That's rare, especially in my world. I just did what anyone would do. No, Sophia said firmly. Most people would have walked past, would have pretended they didn't see, would have called 911 and left me there. You carried me inside, you stayed with me, and when Vincent's men questioned you, you protected me even though you had no idea who I was. She leaned forward slightly. Why? Ethan thought about it. You were scared. You warned me that people were coming. I figured if you were that afraid, whoever was looking for you wasn't trying to help. Smart instinct. The men I was running from, the Russo family. They would have killed me if they'd found me that night. They probably would have killed you too, just for being a witness. Ethan's blood ran cold. Vincent said they're your rivals. Rivals implies a level of civility that doesn't exist between us. The Russos want to control New York. They want my family's territory, my operations, my connections. For 2 years we've maintained an uneasy peace. But 3 nights ago, they violated that peace. She paused, her hand unconsciously moving to her injured shoulder. They invited me to a meeting. Neutral ground, they said. A chance to discuss territorial boundaries, to avoid future conflicts. I brought Vincent and 2 of my most trusted people. The Russos brought 20 men and automatic weapons. Ethan felt sick. They ambushed you. They tried to. Vincent got me out, but not before. She gestured to her shoulder. Bullet wound. Grazed, but enough to bleed. We got separated in the chaos. I ran. They chased. The storm was starting. I thought if I could just lose them, find somewhere to hide until Vincent found me. She shook her head. I made it 6 blocks before I collapsed. If you hadn't found me when you did, you'd be dead. Ethan finished quietly. Yes. Sophia's eyes met his. The Russos think they killed me that night. They haven't announced it yet. They want to find my body first, to make sure. But they believe they won, which gives me an advantage. What kind of advantage? The element of surprise. They think the Castellano family is leaderless, vulnerable. They're planning to make moves against our operations. But I'm alive, and I'm going to make them regret ever touching me. There was steel in her voice, a cold fury that made Ethan believe every word. Where do I fit into all this? He asked. Vincent said the Russos will find out about me. They will, Sophia confirmed. They're investigating everyone who was near that alley. It's only a matter of time, which is why I'm offering you a choice. What kind of choice? Sophia exchanged a glance with Vincent, who nodded. You can walk away, she said. Right now. We'll give you money. Enough to relocate. To start over somewhere the Russos can't find you. A new identity. A new life. Your sister too. We can make you disappear. Or, Ethan asked, because there was clearly an alternative. Or you can trust me. Let me protect you. The Russos won't touch anyone under Castellano protection. If they know you're connected to me, they'll leave you alone. She paused. But that requires you staying in New York. Staying visible. And accepting that your life has irrevocably changed. Ethan's mind spun. Why would you do that? Why would you protect me? Because you protected me when you had every reason not to. Because I don't forget debts. And because... Sophia hesitated, vulnerability flashing across her face. Because I need people in my life who aren't here because of fear or obligation or family ties. I need someone who chose to help me for no other reason than it was the right thing to do. The room fell silent. Outside, traffic hummed. A clock ticked on the mantel. How much time do I have to decide? Ethan asked. None, Vincent said from the doorway. The Russos are moving faster than we anticipated. They've been asking questions in your neighborhood since this morning. Ethan's stomach dropped. Emma is safe, Sophia said quickly. I have people watching her right now. She doesn't know they're there, and she won't unless she needs to. But Ethan, you need to make a decision. Right now. Ethan looked at her. This young woman who ran a criminal empire, who'd survived an assassination attempt, who was offering him protection he desperately needed. If I agree, he said slowly. What exactly does that mean? What do you expect from me? Nothing except your discretion. You keep what you know about me confidential. You don't talk to the police, the feds, or anyone else about what happened that night. In return, you have the full protection of the Castellano family. The Russos won't touch you. You'll also have access to resources. We can help with your rent, with Emma's tuition, with whatever you need. That sounds like charity. It's not charity. It's payment for your silence and a thank you for saving my life. Sophia's expression softened. I know this is overwhelming. I know you never asked for any of this, but I'm asking you to trust me. Just for now. Just until this situation with the Russos is resolved. Ethan thought about Emma, about the photograph Vincent had shown him, thought about his tiny apartment, his barely enough paychecks, the constant stress of trying to survive in this impossible city, thought about Sophia's terrified eyes in that alley, and the strength he saw in them now. Okay, he heard himself say. I'm in. Sophia's shoulders sagged with visible relief. Thank you. You won't regret this, Ethan. I promise. Vincent stepped forward, producing a phone from his jacket. This is yours now. It's secure, encrypted. My number is already programmed. If anything happens, anything at all that seems unusual or threatening, you call me immediately. Understood? Ethan took the phone. It was sleek, expensive, the kind of device he could never afford. Understood. Good. I'm assigning 2 men to watch your apartment building. You won't see them, but they'll be there. Emma's campus will have coverage too. Discreet, but constant. She can't know about this, Ethan said firmly. She's already been through enough. I don't want her scared. She won't know, Sophia promised. Your life continues as normal. You go to work, you take care of your sister, you live your life. The only difference is that now you're not alone. Vincent checked his watch. We should let you get home. It's getting late, and I'm sure Emma will worry if you're gone too long. Ethan stood, feeling oddly reluctant to leave. Despite the insanity of the situation, there was something compelling about Sophia, something that made him want to stay, to understand this woman who carried so much weight on such young shoulders. Can I ask you something? He said. Of course. Why did you take over your father's business? You said you were at Columbia studying business. You could have had a normal life. Why choose this? Sophia was quiet for a long moment. Because 40 men and their families depended on my father. Because if I'd walked away, there would have been war. Blood in the streets. Innocents caught in the crossfire. She met his eyes. I chose this because someone had to. And because sometimes doing the right thing means choosing the hard path instead of the easy one. Her words struck something deep in Ethan's chest. Wasn't that exactly what he'd done when his parents died? Chosen the hard path of supporting Emma, instead of the easy path of letting someone else deal with it. I understand, he said quietly. I know you do. That's why I trust you. Vincent escorted Ethan back downstairs and to the door. Someone will be in touch within the next few days. Probably me. We'll keep you updated on the situation with the Russos. In the meantime, remember, normal life. Don't do anything unusual. Don't change your routines. Got it. And Ethan? Vincent's hand landed on his shoulder, firm but not threatening. Thank you for saving her, for agreeing to this. Sophia's been through hell, and she needs allies she can trust. I think you might be exactly what she needs. Ethan stepped out into the cold afternoon, the secure phone heavy in his pocket. The street looked the same as when he'd arrived, quiet, expensive, peaceful. But everything had changed. He pulled out his regular phone and texted Emma. How was the exam? Her response came immediately. Killed it. Where are you? Want to grab dinner? Ethan smiled despite everything. Yeah, I'll meet you at home in an hour. Pizza? You're the best. As he walked toward the subway, Ethan noticed things he'd never paid attention to before. A man in a coffee shop window, watching the street. A woman in a parked car seeming to wait for something. Were they Vincent's people? The Russos? Or just regular New Yorkers going about their lives? He had no way to know anymore. His world had tilted on its axis, and nothing would ever be quite the same. But as he descended into the subway, as the train carried him back toward Brooklyn and home, Ethan found himself thinking about Sophia's words. Sometimes doing the right thing means choosing the hard path instead of the easy one. He'd made his choice. For better or worse, he was in this now. He just hoped he'd survive whatever came next. 3 days passed before Ethan heard from Vincent again. 3 days of looking over his shoulder, of jumping at sudden noises, of watching Emma leave for classes while pretending everything was normal. The secure phone stayed silent in his pocket, a constant reminder of the world he'd been pulled into. Then, on Tuesday evening, it finally buzzed. Vincent, Sophia would like to see you. Tomorrow 2 p.m. Same address. Come alone. Ethan stared at the message, his heart racing. He texted back, Is something wrong? Vincent, she's recovering well. She wants to talk. That's all. The next afternoon, Ethan found himself climbing the brownstone steps again. The same guard answered, but this time led him to the 3rd floor instead of the study. They stopped at a door, and the guard knocked softly before opening it. Mr. Rivers? Miss Castellano? The room was clearly a bedroom converted into a recovery space. Medical equipment lined one wall, monitors, an IV stand, supplies. But it also felt lived in. Books stacked on the nightstand, a laptop open on the desk, photos on the dresser. Sophia sat in an armchair by the window wrapped in a gray cashmere blanket. She looked better than last time. Color in her cheeks, strength in her posture. But the bandage on her shoulder remained, a stark reminder of how close she'd come to death. Ethan, she said, genuine warmth in her voice. Thank you for coming. Please sit. He He took the chair across from her. Afternoon sunlight filtered through sheer curtains, casting soft shadows across the room. "How are you feeling?" he asked. "Better every day. The doctors say I'll make a full recovery. No permanent damage." She paused. "Vincent told me you haven't had any problems. No one approaching you. Nothing unusual." "Nothing. It's been quiet. Almost too quiet." "That's good. The Russos are focused elsewhere right now." Sophia's expression grew serious. "But that won't last. They're starting to ask questions. Someone saw the ambulance that night. They're investigating the hospital, checking admissions records." Ethan's stomach tightened. "Will they find you?" "No. We have people who adjusted the records. As far as the hospital knows, I was never there." She met his eyes. "But they'll find you eventually, Ethan. They know someone helped me. They're looking." "How long do I have?" "Days, maybe a week." Sophia leaned forward, wincing slightly at the movement. "That's not why I asked you here, though. I wanted to talk to you. Really talk. Not with Vincent standing guard. Not with business between us. Just two people." Ethan studied her face. The intelligence in her eyes. The weight she carried. The vulnerability she was showing him now. "Okay. What do you want to know?" "Tell me about Emma. Your sister." For the next hour, they talked. Ethan found himself opening up in ways he rarely did. About his parents' death. About the crushing responsibility of becoming a guardian at 19. About watching Emma struggle with grief while trying to hide his own. About working double shifts and skipping meals and lying awake at night wondering if he was doing enough. Sophia listened without interruption, her eyes never leaving his face. "You gave up everything for her," she said finally. "Your education, your future, your own life. That's not easy. It's what family does." "Not all family." Sophia's voice turned bitter. "When my father died, most of our family tried to take what they could and run. Blood doesn't guarantee loyalty." "What about you?" Ethan asked. "Vincent said you were at Columbia. What did you want to be before all this?" Sophia was quiet for a long moment, staring out the window. "I wanted to teach. International business, maybe economics. I loved the theory of it. How markets work, how money flows across borders, how systems connect." She laughed softly without humor. "Ironic, isn't it? I'm using all that education now, just not the way my professors intended. You could still walk away. You said it yourself, you never wanted this life." "I can't. Not anymore." Sophia turned back to him. "Do you know what happens if I walk away? The Castellano territories get absorbed by families like the Russos. The legitimate businesses my father built, the construction companies that employ 300 people, the shipping firm, the waste management contracts, they all get dismantled or corrupted. 40 families lose their income. My father's legacy disappears. So you're trapped. We're both trapped, Ethan, just in different ways." Her eyes softened. "But maybe that's why I trust you. You understand what it means to choose duty over desire, to sacrifice your own happiness for something bigger." The connection between them was palpable. Two young people carrying impossible burdens, finding unexpected understanding in each other. The door opened suddenly. Vincent stepped in, his face grim. "We have a problem." Sophia straightened immediately, all softness vanishing. "What happened?" "The Russos found the restaurant's security footage. They saw Ethan carry you inside." Vincent's eyes shifted to Ethan. "They know who you are. They know where you live." Ethan's blood turned to ice. "Emma is safe. My people moved her to a secure location an hour ago. She thinks it's a surprise dormitory upgrade. Scholarship opportunity, single room, better security. She doesn't suspect anything. You can't just move her without telling me." Ethan stood, anger and fear warring in his chest. "We didn't have time," Vincent said flatly. "The Russos sent men to your building this morning. They're watching it right now. If Emma had come home..." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Sophia rose carefully, moving to Ethan. "I'm sorry. I know this isn't what you signed up for. But Vincent's right. We had to move fast. Your sister is safe. You're safe here. But we need to make a decision about what happens next." "What decision?" "Whether you hide or whether we use this." Sophia's expression was calculating now. "All business. The Russos know you helped me. They think they can use you to draw me out. But what if we let them try?" Ethan stared at her. "You want to use me as bait. I want to end this war before more people get hurt. Before your sister becomes a real target instead of a theoretical one." Sophia's voice was steel. "The Russos think I'm weak, wounded, hiding. If they come for you, thinking they can trade your life for information about me, We can be ready. We can finish this. You're asking me to risk my life. I'm asking you to trust me. One more time. Sophia's hand found his, warm and surprisingly gentle. I will not let them hurt you, Ethan, I swear it. But I need your help to end this threat permanently. Ethan looked at their joined hands, then at Vincent standing by the door, then back at Sophia's fierce gray-green eyes. He thought about Emma, safe but displaced. About the life he'd been living, paycheck to paycheck, always one disaster away from losing everything. About this woman who'd survived an assassination attempt and was still fighting. What's the plan? He asked quietly. Sophia smiled, sharp and dangerous. Let me explain. Chapter 4. The Price of Kindness. The plan was simple in theory, terrifying in practice. Ethan would return to his normal routine, work at Marino's, visible and vulnerable. The Russos would make their move thinking they had an easy target, but Vincent's people would be watching, ready to intervene. And when the Russos revealed themselves, Sophia would trigger the endgame, evidence her father had collected before his death, proof of the Russo family's criminal operations, delivered directly to the FBI. You'll never be alone, Vincent had promised. My best people will be within 10 feet of you at all times. That didn't stop Ethan's hands from shaking as he walked to work Thursday morning. The city felt different now. Every car that slowed near him could be a threat. Every stranger who looked too long could be a Russo soldier. The secure phone in his pocket was his lifeline. One button would bring Vincent's people running. The lunch shift at Marino's passed in agonizing slowness. Ethan served tables, smiled at customers, pretended everything was normal, but his eyes constantly scanned the windows, the door, watching for danger. At 2:30, they came. 2 men in dark suits entered the restaurant, their eyes locking onto Ethan immediately. They weren't trying to be subtle. This was a message. Ethan's heart hammered. He reached for his phone, but one of the men shook his head. A clear warning. The other gestured toward the door. Need to talk to you, he said, his Brooklyn accent thick. Outside. Now. Mr. Marino emerged from the kitchen, his face darkening. Hey, you can't just... This doesn't concern you, old man. The first man's hand moved to his jacket, showing a weapon without drawing it. The kid comes with us. Nobody gets hurt. Ethan caught Vincent's words in his memory. Let them think they're in control. We'll be ready. It's okay, Mr. Marino, Ethan said, his voice surprisingly steady. I'll go with them. Ethan, it's okay. Outside, a black sedan waited at the curb, engine running. The 2 men flanked Ethan, guiding him toward it with hands that gripped just tight enough to hurt. Get in. Back seat. Ethan slid in, and one man followed while the other took the passenger seat. The driver, a third man with dead eyes, pulled into traffic immediately. Where are we going? Ethan asked. Somewhere quiet. Our boss wants to ask you some questions about a girl you found in the snow. They drove south, toward the waterfront. The industrial area near Red Hook. Abandoned warehouses. Empty lots. The kind of place where screams wouldn't be heard. Ethan's phone buzzed once in his pocket. Vincent's people were tracking him. The sedan pulled into a warehouse loading dock. Rusted shipping containers formed a maze around them, and the February wind howled off the East River, carrying the smell of salt and decay. Out. Ethan stepped into the cold, his breath fogging. The warehouse door opened, and more men emerged. 5, 6, 7. And leading them, a man in his 50s with slicked-back gray hair and a face like weathered leather. Marco Russo, the patriarch himself. So you're the Good Samaritan, Marco said, his voice gravelly from decades of cigarettes. He circled Ethan like a predator. The waiter who saved the Castellano girl. Very noble. Very stupid. I don't know what you're talking about, Ethan said. Marco's fist came from nowhere, catching Ethan in the stomach. He doubled over, gasping. Don't insult my intelligence. We have video. We have witnesses. You carried Sofia Castellano into that restaurant and called for help. That makes you either very brave or very connected to her. Marco grabbed Ethan's chin, forcing eye contact. Which is it? I found someone hurt. I helped them. That's it. Another punch, this time to his ribs. Pain exploded through Ethan's side and he fell to his knees on the concrete. Where is she? Marco demanded. Where's the Castellano bitch hiding? I don't know. The ambulance took her. I never saw her again. Marco pulled a gun from his jacket, a silver revolver that gleamed in the warehouse's dim light. He pressed it against Ethan's temple, cold metal on skin. Last chance, kid. Tell me where she is or I paint this floor with your brains. Ethan closed his eyes, thinking of Emma, thinking of Sophia's promise. I will not let them hurt you. I don't. No. Marco's finger tightened on the trigger. The warehouse exploded with sound. Flash grenades detonated, filling the space with blinding light and deafening noise. Vincent's people poured in from every direction, through doors, through windows, through gaps in the walls. 20 men in tactical gear, weapons drawn, moving with military precision. FBI, hands up, hands on your head. Chaos erupted. Marco's men scrambled for weapons, but they were outmatched and surrounded. Gunfire cracked, warning shots into the concrete. Within 30 seconds, every Russo soldier was on the ground, hands behind their heads. Marco still stood, gun still pressed to Ethan's temple, using him as a shield. Stay back, he shouted. I'll kill him. No, you won't. The voice came from behind them. Marco spun, dragging Ethan with him. Sofia Castellano stood in the warehouse doorway, flanked by Vincent and a woman in an FBI jacket. Despite her injured shoulder, despite everything, she stood tall and unwavering. Hello, Marco, she said calmly. Drop the gun. You're supposed to be dead, Marco breathed, genuine shock in his voice. Clearly, your people failed. Again, Sofia took a step forward. It's over, Marco. The FBI has everything. My father's evidence. Every transaction, every shipment, every bribe you've paid for the last 20 years. Your organization is finished. The FBI agent stepped forward. Marco Russo, you're under arrest for attempted murder, racketeering, conspiracy, and about 40 other charges. Drop the weapon. Marco's hand trembled. The gun pressed harder against Ethan's head. You did this, he hissed at Sofia. You destroyed everything. No, you destroyed yourself when you tried to kill me. I'm just making sure everyone knows it. Sofia's eyes were ice. Last time, Marco dropped the gun. For an eternal moment, nothing moved. Then Marco's shoulders sagged, and the gun clattered to the concrete. FBI agents swarmed him immediately, forcing him down, cuffing him. Vincent rushed to Ethan, helping him stand. You okay? Ethan nodded, though his ribs screamed in protest. I've been better. Sofia approached, and for the first time since they'd met, Ethan saw emotion break through her controlled facade. Her hand touched his cheek gently. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I promised you'd be safe. I am safe. Ethan interrupted. You kept your promise. It worked. You shouldn't have had to go through that, any of it. But I did. And it's over now, right? Sofia glanced at the FBI agents hauling Marco and his men away. Yes, the Russo family is done. My people are safe. And you? She paused. You're free, Ethan. No more danger. No more looking over your shoulder. You can go back to your life. Something twisted in Ethan's chest. Just like that? Just like that. But Sofia's eyes held regret. Unless what? Unless you want something different. Something more than serving tables and barely surviving. Sofia pulled a business card from her pocket. Elegant. Embossed. This is my legitimate business. Import, export. Completely legal. I need someone I can trust to help me transition away from the other aspects of my father's legacy. Someone with integrity. Someone who does the right thing even when it's hard. Ethan stared at the card. You're offering me a job? I'm offering you a choice. Keep your life as it is or take a chance on something new. Either way, you'll have resources. Emma's tuition is covered. Your rent paid for the next year. That's not contingent on anything. It's a thank you, not a bribe. Sofia, think about it. No pressure, just consider it. She squeezed his hand once, then stepped back as Vincent approached. We need to go, Vincent said. FBI wants statements. As they left, Ethan stood in the warehouse, the business card in his hand, watching Sofia disappear into the afternoon light. 2 weeks later, Ethan wiped down the bar at Marino's, the familiar rhythm soothing after everything that had happened. The bruises had faded. Emma was settled in her new dorm, thriving and none the wiser about how close she'd come to danger. Life had returned to normal, except it hadn't. Not really. The door chimed and Ethan looked up, his breath caught. Sofia entered wearing jeans and a simple black coat, looking nothing like a mafia queen and everything like a young woman trying to blend in. She slid onto a bar stool, a small smile on her lips. Hey, she said. Hey yourself. What are you doing here? I was in the neighborhood. Thought I'd see how you're doing. She paused. And to see if you'd made a decision about my offer. Ethan set down his cloth, meeting her eyes. Those gray-green eyes that had changed his life. I've been thinking about what you said, about choosing the hard path because it's the right one. And And I think I'm ready for something different. Something more than this. He pulled her business card from his pocket. He'd carried it every day. When do I start? Sophia's smile was radiant, genuine, and for the first time unburdened. Monday work for you? Monday works. She stood to leave, then paused at the door. Ethan, thank you, for everything, for saving me, for trusting me, for being exactly who you are. Thank you for reminding me that sometimes the right thing leads somewhere worth going. After she left, Ethan stood at the bar, looking at the business card, at the future it represented. His phone buzzed. Emma asking about dinner. He smiled and typed back, "How about pizza? My treat. I have some news to share." Outside, snow began to fall again. Gentle this time, peaceful. Ethan watched it through the window, no longer seeing danger in every shadow, just possibility, just hope. He'd saved a girl in a storm, and somehow she'd saved him right back. Sometimes the hardest choices lead to the most unexpected destinations. Ethan Rivers entered that alley as a struggling waiter barely surviving the city. He emerged as something more, someone who'd faced real danger and discovered strength he didn't know he had. Sofia Castellano found something she'd never expected, someone who helped her not because of fear or obligation, but because it was right. Two people from impossible circumstances, connected by one act of kindness in the snow, both forever changed by the price they paid and the future they earned.